sir.
So basically, we had a previous speaker named Paul Bishop who came, and he spoke on generative art in particular in AI. A really, really interesting subject because he's super creative. I've known Paul Bishop for years and years and years. And you were asking him, you were like just getting in there going, yeah, and another thing, and what about that? And I was like, hey, this guy knows this stuff. So, but actually, your like dream job,
Yep.
which you've kind of started already,
Yep.
kind of like your side hustle.
Yep.
Is it more than a side hustle already? Do you have like, you're close?
Close.
You're close.
Getting there.
And that's called whatAIdea.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And what are you hoping to do with that?
I think it's just going to grow. It started off as a kid's birthday party. Someone asked me a question, needing some help with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Then I realised it was a clear pain point, and then it grew from there.
Yeah.
And now I do coaching and help some people learn more about generative AI.
Brilliant. Now you had to do a sales pitch the other day
Yep.
to an interesting group of people. Some of them I know. Tell us a little bit about that and
Yep.
what sort of pulled it all together.
So I'd say about 3 weeks ago, I started looking at events going on in January, looking at where I could maybe talk a bit more about whatAIdea. Then I saw by you could say location, as I'm based near Guildford, the nearest one, and an event came up. Apply here. There's like a Dragon's Den style situation.
Yeah.
Applied, thought nothing of it. About 2 weeks ago, they just said, "Oh, you've been accepted through thousands of other applications." We got into the final 10.
Wow.
And then we had to present a quick 5-minute situation of what we do and what we built, a web app, which was exciting. But unfortunately, 2 of my other co-founders couldn't make it as they were incredibly sick.
So they left you to it.
It was just myself
Yep.
in front of 4 people asking me very tough questions, you could say,
Yeah.
about what we did and how we built it, and obviously the background about the business.
So, and this is like some heavyweight panel, right? This
Yep.
included the head of Surrey's cybersecurity cluster, is that
That's
right?
correct, yeah.
Yeah, who else was on the panel?
And then there was 3 senior directors at BAE Systems.
Wow, pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And you won the pitch, you won the sort of,
I wouldn't say it
whatever it was. They chose you.
It wasn't a win situation, it was more, I think, there was very positive feedback.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well done, you.
Meeting, yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Right, so how to build your own chatbot using Flowise for less than a cup of coffee. So a bit more about us. So we do 2 things at whatAIdea. We simplify sales processes through AI and automation, which is our web app, which we started, I'd say, a year ago. Interesting, exciting stuff, it's all on our website. And the second one is a bit more about, we educate businesses on generative AI. That's more we do education and effectively some of these events. It's just a bit more about our events that we've done in the past, including today's one. Done a session at SurreyDevs, Cyber Runway by Plexel, which was on Monday, and then also a virtual one by a team called the AAA, which is a e-commerce or an online community. And there's just a bit more about some of the clients we work with, and then some of the students I've got that I coach at the moment. So we'll begin with a bit more today, my AI journey, the challenges. Then we're going to go into the aha moment, otherwise known as RAG, effectively. Then we're going to look at the OpenAI GPT 3.5, that's basically the one that everyone uses of ChatGPT alternatives. Then we're going to go into the home of machine learning, and then we're going to do a recap, and then finally the Flowise demo. And the reason why we're going this way is just to give you a bit of a story as to why I got to Flowise. I'm sure a lot of you in the crowd have used ChatGPT a lot, went on the browser, started asking questions, used it a lot, very popular. But personally on my side, I had some key challenges because I used it a lot. And what I mean a lot, I think the first time I used it, I started the day I heard about it, before GPT-4 came out. I went on my computer, it was Friday, just after, I'd say 5 o'clock after work. I looked at it, I was like, oh, this is quite interesting. Then I didn't get off my screen until probably the next day at like 2 a.m. And then I realised, I think I'm having a relationship with my computer, I should really slow down here. I think my wife was too happy about that. So here we've got, so the first challenges I had. So there's 2 sides of ChatGPT on the web browser. There's GPT 3.5 that most people use, and then if you have a subscription, you've got what's called GPT 4. Now on GPT 4, they've effectively set a message limit. So you have a message limit of 50 every 3 hours. So that was my first challenge I had to overcome. The second one was, back then, during weekdays, there was login issues. So there was millions of users, there was login issues, and I was just getting frustrated. I needed it to help me with what I was trying to achieve, but more importantly, I kind of started to get to a point where it was starting to become more of a, I'd say, addiction slightly. And then hallucinations. Now, for anyone in the crowd who doesn't know what hallucinations are, it's effectively when the generative AI, the large language model, starts to invent facts, come up with things that aren't really factually correct. And the other one that I had was the image window limit. Now that's a nice way of saying I tried to upload books, information that was over 200 pages, and it just didn't like it. It never made sense. It just started to make up things again. So that was my other problem. And the last one was I was missing a test environment. Now for anyone in the crowd who's a developer, what I mean by a test environment, well, my own wording, I'm pretty sure all of you who have way more experience than I do know what the term is, but somewhere for me to just have a go at it, throw stuff, and if it sticks, it sticks. So that's when I stumbled across, not YouTube, but actually Reddit. Reddit's like a, you could say, a community place, almost like a Facebook, but without people's pictures. It's like a world there, and I stumbled across someone on there talking about something called RAG, when I asked the question, and it really got me down, you could say, a rabbit hole. I started to say, okay, well, what is RAG? Now, bearing in mind, everybody, at this point, I had no development experience. To me, this was all a new world. I thought, okay, what does RAG mean? So RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. So I've done a very simple diagram for anyone in the group or anyone listening that hasn't really understood it. So here is just a simple, straightforward approach. So here's a question, what makes Llama 2 special, right? And you ask the question to a large language model like GPT 3.5, GPT 4, and then it gives you an answer, I don't know. Now the reason why it's saying I don't know is because it doesn't actually have the answer in its knowledge base, you could say. And this is a great example of something so specific that it won't know the answer because it hasn't been trained into this information. So again, I had a problem. How can I speak to the large language model about information that it hasn't been trained on? And this is where RAG comes in. Now, again, for anyone who's in the room who this feels a bit overwhelming, I'll try and give you some analogies. Imagine you're trying to ask for some information to someone, but they don't know the context or they don't have the information at hand. So what you do is you use this, which is called RAG, this process. Now this process on a high level approach is, it's almost like you're speaking to a librarian. There's a librarian there, they've got all these books behind them, and you're asking a question. And the librarian turns around, goes and picks the book that's most relevant to you, brings it to you and says, here's the book that you need, you can go on, off your way. So that's effectively what RAG is. We begin with the embedding model, the question goes through, which is effectively where the information gets put into a little way for the machine to understand a bit more. Then we've got the query vector, which is effectively the vector database, where it sits the embedding model, the information, and then it goes to the relevant context, and then finally the LLM. So, yeah, that's, in a very high-level approach, how it works. Now that was great, but then I had my other problem. My other problem through my journey was, I was starting to not really like using GPT and OpenAI. I was starting to think to myself, there must be other alternatives. There must be other companies out there that are doing this, but are doing this for other use cases. And that's where in my journey, I started to ask myself, what if I don't like OpenAI? And that's where there's all these other providers I realised. There was Google with their Gemini, and then there was Anthropic, which is basically you could say a pull-off of OpenAI that they started, quite good. Then there was Mistral, which is a French team, who came up with these really great concepts in making smaller large language models and making them more efficient. Then there was Amazon Bedrock, which is, everyone knows Amazon. Then there was Azure OpenAI, which they tried to brand themselves as, you could say, the safer or more enterprise-ready OpenAI. That was great. But then I had my next question, which was, well, where am I going to do all of this? And more importantly, I don't really want somewhere where, again, it's the company that's responsible. I want my own version. And that's when I came to the understanding there were some restrictions of using some of these tools. The first one was, as a small business, it's incredibly difficult to, in some cases, get approved through their processes and basically get accepted to use these amazing technologies and amazing platforms. So that was the first thing. On average, we could say sometimes it could take 4 months to be approved with some of my colleagues and friends. The second one was the vague privacy and training information guidelines. Now everyone knows a lot of companies starting to ban this ChatGPT and all these large language models, so for me I started to question that and start seeing, okay, well where's this going? And the last one, geographic restrictions. Some of the people I was connected to and in my network started to explain to me that in their countries some of these LLMs and AIs were banned. So I need to overcome all of this. And so that's when I discovered Hugging Face. Now Hugging Face, you could say, is like the world of AIs, the world of everything to do with open source of large language models. It's an exciting, interesting place, and it basically caters for all forms, from wanting to build your own comic book strip, completely powered by AI, whatever you want to do. Now, what's great about Hugging Face was they all had commercial licenses readily available. You just need a graphics card on your computer or even a decent MacBook laptop, and you just download it, install, and you can use any of these LLMs yourself. So there's nothing holding you back. And more importantly, if you wanted to run a business or start it yourself, you could do that with one of these AIs. And then the other thing which really frustrated me was I'd started doing prompt engineering, which Jamie's going to go into a bit more detail later, and I started to realise 3 months down the line when OpenAI updated their GPT-4 or GPT 3.5, whichever one it was, my prompts weren't really giving me the same answers as they were before because they got updated and they've added extra to the knowledge base, and somehow the prompts suddenly weren't working as well. And the last one, which really I found exciting, was it catered to all niches and use cases. That was the open source journey. So just to recap. So the first one, which I mentioned, the message limit of 50 per 3 hours, again, the obsessive side I mentioned. Then the solution, the unlimited responses using APIs that I overcame with. Then during weekdays, login issues, again, overcame it with APIs. And then the third one, hallucinations, eliminated via the RAG that I mentioned earlier, particularly using prompts and working through it. And then the fourth one, input window limit, again, RAG was overcome there. And then the fifth one was missing a test environment. That was the bit that was missing. And I thought to myself, okay, go on the internet, I'll try and see, is there any way I can build my own chatbots, but for free, or any way I can build them without having to subscribe or pay a lot of money? There was not really that many, until I found this place, Flowise. Now, Flowise is amazing because it's open source, you can do whatever you want with it, it's a commercial situation as well, so what I mean by that is you could build something, host it, add your whatever niche or focus you're trying to build, and they let you. There's no limitations there. It's all on GitHub. And again, you can just deploy it. And for me, I deployed it on DigitalOcean, so it cost me less than $6 a month, which was incredibly cheap. You can even run it on your own laptop, but if you don't really know what you're doing, I'd recommend you to go via one of these anyways. So I'm just going to now go into the demo. So go to Flowise. Just go to flowiseai.com. There it is. And these are the common type of people that are using it, these organisations. It's really good. You're all very lucky. When I first discovered it, it had no documentation, and I spent 3 days trying to figure out what NPM and what some of these terms were. Remember, I don't have development experience, just to highlight that. Then I found a few YouTube tutorials, and then I managed to deploy it on what's called a DigitalOcean droplet. And on there, this is what Flowise looks like. So these are all my templates or whatever you want. On the top left-hand corner, you've got the marketplace. Now it's funny, they call it the marketplace, but you don't actually pay for anything. It's just different templates that are basically making readily available for you to use. So each one of these are basically mini chatbots for you to have conversations with. They've got an example here, which is a CSV agent. You can drop an Excel file and have a nice chat with it. There's loads. You can chat with a podcast. But what we're going to do today is we're going to go into my own chat flow, which I built. We'll begin with... So the first thing I thought was, I don't want a chatbot just for the fun of it. I want a chatbot that will actually bring me value. It'll be able to, help me with what I'm looking to do, help me with, you could say, my day-to-day job or whatever I'm trying to achieve. So the first thing I had was, I'd say, being better at outreach and being better at speaking to people and interactions at the beginning of your sales process, so effectively cold calling. So I went on the internet and I came up to the realization that there's this guy, he's American, and he's called Jeremy Miner. I don't know if anyone has heard of him, but Jeremy Miner is one of the leading people in the world when it comes to cold calling. That's what I did. I just went, okay, I need to find someone He's got over 100,000 subscribers. It's quite cool. I thought to myself, okay, what if I had my own Jeremy Miner for myself, for my own business? And that's where we go into the world of persona chatbots using Flowise. So what I did, on a high-level approach was, I put in his YouTube videos, converted them, and then I put them into a Notion database, which I'll show you in a second.
What's a Notion database?
So Notion is like a workspace. It's like Google Docs, but for here we go. For anyone to use. And what I did here is I basically built a really nice summary about who he is. I got the top skills, so I converted his top YouTube video and I put in the top information, and the last bit put in the time management and everything. Now this is a very common thing that a lot of people on YouTube post about. It's out there. And again, the goal of this was really simple. I wanted to build something of value, not just for fun, but at the same time for fun. And from that, I then built this really cool tool. So what it does is, via Notion database, which you all saw just now, split it up, and just like Tetris, I've connected it all together with OpenAI's embeddings, which I mentioned to you all before, how to build a RAG, and databases, you could say the knowledge base, the in-memory vector store, so it's stored in there. Then there's OpenAI's connection with the new GPT-4 preview, and then I've added some little motorway. And then the best bit of it is, we've got return source documents.
Can I ask some questions?
Go ahead.
I'm going to turn my mic on, Brett, just in case that makes sense to do, because I'm non-technical and I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, right. So just explain here, and for those who can't see at the back.
Let me zoom in.
Yeah. Just take us through sort of the different components here, and
different
what they
components.
actually mean. So can we start at the beginning?
Yeah, I'll start at the beginning.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, you need to have somewhere, like I mentioned in RAG, for the database or the information to sit in when you want to have a conversation with some of these LLMs. And this is the information it doesn't have in its knowledge base when you fine-tune. So for me personally, I like using Notion. You can use anything, Google Doc, whatever you want.
Okay, so why do you need though? Why do you need any database or Notion database?
So what you need somewhere for it to refer to as effectively a knowledge base.
Yeah.
For the AI to really know and be honing in and say, okay, I need to refer to this information for whatever I need to know, whatever I need to do.
Super.
So that's the first step. So once we did that, then we went into in-memory vector store. So that's effectively where the memory is being stored of all the information when it's having a conversation. So we go back and forth, but more importantly, it was sitting in it, right?
Okay.
And that's in memory, which means I'm not paying anything. It's in the memory of the little DigitalOcean droplet. And then we need embeddings. Now, embeddings, the best way to explain it is the text and the information and the words are being converted into, you could say, like floating points.
Yeah.
Yeah. And from that, it will then be able to be more condensed, so you got less of space, effectively, for you to store some of this information. And then, how are you going to have a conversation with it? Well, obviously, you need to connect a language model. So here I've got OpenAI. And I've just really simply just put in my API key from my OpenAI subscription, and then I can then choose which one I wanted. Simple as that.
Brilliant.
So these are all the OpenAIs. And again, this is like Lego. I've gone for this one just because this is the most real-world use case, and I apologise if I went into a bit more complex one at the beginning. And then in the last bit, connecting everything together. So we've got the language model, which is OpenAI GPT-4. We've got the vector store retrieval, and then we've got the memory, which is the long memory for it to have a conversation with, which is whatAIdea. Right? Then, the last step, which Jamie's going to go into a bit more detail about, which is the prompt. Now this was the hard bit. This is probably the bit that took a bit of tweaking. Everything else was a bit more straightforward to understand. Now this one on my prompt, I'm saying, you are Jeremy, so I'm telling the AI, the large language model, to pretend to be Jeremy Miner. Irrespective of anything, you're Jeremy Miner, leading sales coach of the chairman of 7th Level, a company specialises in sales training and development. Your online persona is characterized by a genuine desire to share your learnings on sales strategy and human psychology. You're known for your business acumen and knowledge and enjoy being clear, concise, and an excellent storyteller to convey key business strategy tips. Answer the questions as if you are Jeremy Miner. Only answer questions found in the context. If you don't know the answer, then respond with something like, I have no idea, or could you rephrase them? Do not make up your own answers if you don't know the answer. This seems a bit like obvious, but this piece here is incredibly important to stop hallucinations, otherwise known as the AI making things up. And then the next bit I added myself, this was, I could say, my own piece. Try to help the user by asking questions about their issues before getting straight to resolution, such as tell me a bit more about why you think this is an issue. And also try to include in your answers part of the question the user used. So now, using this, we've created a Jeremy Miner episode. So just to show you an example, we're going to do a nice little example. We're going to say, I am stuck on my business cold call. I am really uncomfortable. I don't know where to start. Now we wait. Based on OpenAI, based on the time, it's probably going to be a bit late. There's a lot of people in the States use it about this time.
Yeah.
Okay, just to make things a bit clear, you could say I made it a bit more dramatic as I kind of boosted up some of the settings. I've made it so the context window is usually about 2 pages long, which is not a good thing to do. Typically, is you're going to wait a while, but I'm not really caring about a time frame because I want a large information summary. So there we go. So it sounds a bit like you're feeling a bit overwhelmed. Remember, the key to cold calling is not to push your product, but to become a problem finder. Really good stuff. And always remember the ABDs, always be disarmed. Really good stuff. But what was great is it even gave you the referencing about Jeremy Miner's own processes, which I think is awesome. Yeah. So that's the Sony chatbot. Now, if someone in the crowd asked if we can put in other LLMs, and that's where we just press the little plus button, and these are all the different features you can use using Flowise. Just like playing Tetris and Lego. Again, have we done any coding here? No. We can go to LLMs, and look, as I showed you on the slide before, we've got AWS Bedrock, we've got Azure OpenAI, which is the safe one, we've got this one I've never heard of, but it must be a new one in the open source community, NI Potenza LLM. We've got Cohere, we've got Google's Palm, we've got Google's Vertex, we've got Hugging Face, so you can choose whichever LLM you want out of the Hugging Face well. We've got Olama, if you could literally deploy your own LLM on your own hardware. We've got OpenAI, and we've got Replicate. Replicate's my favourite for the open source side, as there's a lot of great stuff and cool stuff there. Yeah, and that's Jeremy Miner. Just another one, just to show you how fast it is with a Hugging Face. Now this one is a lot more straightforward and a lot simpler. This is an example of no rag. So this is just me having a chat, or anyone that could do this one, without any memory or without any information. It's just Hugging Face, in memory cache, and a prompt template. And then I'm just going to say, write me a poem about chocolates. So you can see it's gross. There we go. So I just expand it. And there you go. There's a poem about rap format, about chocolates.
I can't read it. Can you wrap it out for us, please?
Yeah, we'll give you some music. Max is good on the music. Yeah, can you? Yeah, get him some music so you can wrap that.
No, I'm not wrapping that one.
You sure?
Absolutely not.
No, you said you'd wrap that earlier.
And then the last one, before I finish up my task, I think I'll extend it a bit. So that was Mistral I just shown you. Now Mistral is a new up-and-comer. Typically, these large language models sizes are quite big, but the French Mistral team, they came up with a way to really scrunch it down to absolute tiny numbers, 7 billion parameters, just for you to understand. The scale goes from, give or take, 240 billion to then 120 billion size to then 32 billion. Now the one that's been the top for a long time has been Llama 2, which is created by Facebook. And that one has been the industry standard and the gold one for a long time. But then there's French team, and there's 70 billion. Then the French team created 7B, which is 10 times smaller, which in most of the cases outperforms the 7 billion. Now, what most people care most about is the cost perspective. That's going from costing you $5,000 to $10,000 a month to less than $100 a month to run something like this.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Jenny, what do you think?
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah? Even you and I could do this.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah? Is this, I mean, are we in question time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Good time to ask.
Yeah,
I've got, we could probably have loads of questions. let me jump in first. Is this like the beginning of like customizing your own kind of GPT LLM world?
Yes, I think so. And I think the part I maybe didn't go over is any of these you can hit save. Now, if I've got someone in the crowd who just deployed Flowise and they want to know how to build their own Jeremy Miner version or whoever they really like on YouTube and they want to create their own version to help them in their business.
You just swap out Jeremy Miner for somebody else?
Yep, I can just press this button here, the little button on the settings toggle, and these are all these things, and I just press export chat flow, and there we go, I can just send that to my friend, and they'll have the same as me.
And then they can collaborate on it, or use it however they want.
They can use it however they want. The only bit is from a security perspective, it never gives them your APIs, it's just how I built this, like Tetris and Lego, they'll have my Lego, Jeremy Miner.
Wow, amazing. What other questions?
And you can then send this on any website. So if I press this button here, which I didn't mention earlier, I can just press copy here, and I can put this on a website, and it'll come up as a pop-up chatbot on any website or anywhere you want.
You're like blowing my mind.
For free.
We can get that tomorrow. Billy.
Yeah, I'm also non-technical, by the way, so I will ask stupid questions. But it's kind of similar to where Paul was going, I think. So obviously, OpenAI themselves have now allowed you to start creating custom GPTs.
Yes.
So are they trying to compete with this sort of thing? Obviously, you can only use their LLM with that.
Yes.
But could you do similar to what you did with the Jeremy YouTube piece with that or not?
Yeah, great question. Now, custom GPTs are very similar to assistants, and just like magic, the Flowise team have added it in. So you can literally have your own OpenAI assistants right there. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, so I've done it already. If I go to my chat flow as an example, because I thought someone would ask me this, go down, and then we're going to go to Assistant Market Researcher, and then I've just created very similar. I zoom in a bit. Now this one's, you could call it my Assistant Market Researcher. What I've done here is I've got it connected to a web browser, so you can find some websites. There was a bit of issues on that one. There's a lot of websites now not really so happy with connecting LLMs and stuff, so instead I've gone with a Google custom search. So imagine Google search, but my AI now can use Google search by itself for any questions I want. With a calculator, because most of the time they're terrible at maths. Just put a little calculator in there. And then there's my assistant right there, so I've just got two simple things in.
So do you mind us asking you a question
Yeah,
about what would you use the assistant market researcher for? You ask it to,
Perfect timing. So as an example, I said, hi there, tell me about my business, my company. I said, tell me about this business and where could I reach them out on? And then it did a Google search on my business, cool. And I said, awesome, now based on what you have found, would you recommend me an outreach email form? Now bearing in mind, you could say this is a much more respectable approach, because instead of scraping someone's website, you're using Google to search for everything about that website. So Google's already given you a nice summary, and the AI is going to then handle the search element. You don't have to worry so much. And there it's done a nice little profile, and I said, awesome. Now based on what you've found, how would you recommend I create an outreach email for them? And what it's done is, amazingly, it's created me a nice little outreach email to speak to me, tailored. And it said, fill in the brackets, and I literally just press a little copy button here, and that's it, I'm done.
You're done. Wow. That's pretty impressive. Any other questions for Noah? Wow, I was waiting, I didn't even bother looking up Flowise until I wanted to see it for the first time tonight, and I'm so glad I did. And now I can't wait to go use it. That was amazing. Thank you very much, Noah. Wow.